with Dr. Anthony Chafee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. But for those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25%. All right. Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Anthony Chafee, another episode of the Plant-Free MD podcast. Today I have a special guest and bodybuilder, Jonathan Griffiths. Jonathan, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really glad to be here, actually. It's quite a delight to speak to someone that's in the community, someone that's also like muscular. You know, you don't often see muscular people on YouTube as it is. So it's good to see someone like across the globe sort of thing doing the same thing as me. So I'm really glad to speak to you, actually.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and just thank you for making the time. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day. So, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do, and how you came to carnivore, and sort of what you've seen that do for you?
Sure. So my story is a bit different to most people's. A lot of people have got into this space from speaking to like Sean Baker, maybe Kelly Hogan. There's quite a few. Like a few years ago, it's just Sean Baker. Now it's really popping up a lot more. But my introduction was actually quite different. So I started from a bodybuilding background, and my whole thing was getting ripped. Like, I couldn't get ripped. Like, when I say ripped, I mean like shredded glutes, like lines-free hamstrings, like striations everywhere, like looking sick sort of thing. And I'm probably one of the least vain bodybuilders, but I like the process of it, like getting lean and like developing your body, seeing the results, like tracking everything. I'm very analytical, so that's part of it as well. And I sort of came across the idea that a lot of bodybuilders were sort of doing like almost like a meat only diet towards the end of their stage, like their contest preparation. And this is like a maybe 2-week block they'd do, like to carb deplete, before they carb loaded and got the distended guts and they can't digest shit basically. And I just felt like, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just do the get lean bit? So I tried it out. I did the the high protein. I wasn't really adding much animal fat. Now as time has gone on, I've sort of appreciated and understood the value of the animal fat. So I know you're an advocate of I think you said like 70% fat or something, sometimes more. And it seems to be my ratios vary depending on what sort of what body composition I want to acquire, but that's basically how I got into carnivore. And my main thing about YouTube and speaking to people like yourself, other professionals, is that I want to speak to people that can put out a message, and I want to help put out the message, sort of thing. The carnivore diet it's not a fad. It's not something which you think, it's just keto. It's just it's just like the new veganism sort of thing. It's very different. You've spoken about the anthropological beginnings of the diet, evolution, every aspect of that. I've been following the community very closely, and I think I've just got enough knowledge now to sort of start putting out my ideas and how it might apply to bodybuilding. So that's kind of my niche. Yeah.
And so how long have you been doing that, like just really in a carnivore sort of diet? And what have you noticed as far as your bodybuilding is concerned?
Yeah, so I've been doing it for, I'd say, roughly 2 to 2.5 years. I've had some times where I've come off it. More so, it's Christmas. And the thing is with me, I've got one of those personalities where I have to be on something or off something. I can't sort of dither and say, I'm going to do carnivore 6 days a week. It has to be something you stick to. I think a study came out recently or something where they said, if you have like a appreciable amount of carbs on one day, it's on a Monday, it might not be until Wednesday or Thursday that you sort of get over that hump, like that brain fog, like the addiction to sugar. And like I mentioned earlier, just having enough animal fat. So Yeah, and how it applies to bodybuilding, I guess, is I've always been interested in sports performance. I have studied that closely. I've got a degree in human nutrition. That's very much health based biochemistry. So a lot of the things that you, Bart Kay, Harris Parnas, a lot of the experts sort of talk about, the people, in this industry. So yeah, my thing was basically, how am I going to get shredded, or gain more muscle in the most efficient way? What is it going to be? So I thought, let's get down to the bare bones of human nutrition. What do we need to survive? Like, sort of move around and get our muscles working, sort of thing, and just maintain strength and get the body we want. It's protein and fat. Like, we don't need carbohydrates. As I can go into gluconeogenesis if you want, but it's something that's been covered to death, so maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I'm eating at the moment something like 250 to 280 grams of protein a day, and somewhere between 160 and 200 fat. I tend to do something for a few days, see how I feel, adjust it. I'm not quite at the stage yet where I feel comfortable just sort of saying, all right, this is my ratio. But I'd guess, for generally speaking, I'm doing under 15 grams a day of carbs. Carbs, where they come from? Eggs, cheese, dairy. So that's my carb sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, thrilling that.
Not like rice or anything like that.
There's no like rice, or you're not going to. I find it, because I mentioned earlier about my personality being in such a way that I can't just have a bit of something.
Right. Yeah.
My girlfriend's very different. She can be like, oh, I'll have a couple of Skittles and that's it. I'd have to have the whole pack. So for me, it's a lot easier to say, sod it. Let's just not do it at all. Let's not have this.
Yeah. I've told this before, but like when I was a kid, we got like a 10-pound pack of gummy bears from Costco. And like, I just didn't stop eating these stupid things until they were gone. And it was a day and a half of just solid, just handfuls of gummy bears. And I didn't enjoy it. And I was just like, oh my God, is this horrible? And your mouth is raw. And it didn't taste good. It did not taste, I couldn't even taste anything after a while. And I just kept, there was some compulsion to just keep eating them. And I kept doing that. And so, yeah, I'm like exactly the same guy, unfortunately. So if it's a pack of Skittles, then yeah, if it's a 10-pound pack of gummy bears, it's that too.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Like the diet, or the way of eating, its application is so widespread. Like, people with eating disorders, you think, you're eating fat. A lot of people who have the issue of eating fat, which I've seen very common. Like my family, I don't know what it's like in the US. I mean, the steaks in your area of the world, well, you're in Australia, aren't you?
In Australia right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're from the US, but like the US sort of, they've got fattier steaks than we do.
Mm-hmm.
They're much heavier meat eaters than we are. In the UK, if we want to get fatty steak, we have to search for a fatty steak. It's not going to happen. So we end up just doing a lot of mince over here in the UK. We eat proportionally a very high amount of mince in our country. So it's ground beef for those that use different terminology. But yeah, that's the application is like, yeah, people like us, we sort of manage to sustain and build an appreciable amount of muscle and perform at a high level. Like I know your workouts are, you're drinking you're drinking 9 liters a day. Your body must be going for a lot to get through that. So it's intense workouts that you're doing. So it's obviously what we're doing is fueling that. It's evident,
Yeah, definitely. And did you know? Well, I certainly feel that way. And like, my workouts have never been better than when I'm on carnivore, just night and day. And I find that I get quite lean and quite muscular much easier. Like, obviously, this is just how everyone's lived for, the last at least 60, 80 years, and so people that are athletes, people that are doing bodybuilding, we've all been eating carbs. We've all been using glucose and, sports drinks and all that sort of stuff. A lot of people have gotten in very good shape and extremely muscular and extremely lean. There are ways of manipulating your body to do that are, potentially, not very healthy, but you can get that result. But I've noticed that when on carnivore, it's so much easier to build and maintain a physique that I like and to perform athletically. I've just found that it's very easy. Have you found the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go into first like the body composition aspect, then the performance aspect. But just remind me if I forget and I start rambling. So the body composition, like, yeah, I found I can just manipulate the macros slightly, like the amounts of food I'm eating. Within about a week, there's a shift. There's an obvious, like, my body fat calipers have gone down, or depends what I'm trying to do, sort of thing. It's very cause and effect. You can really see the results. In terms of like, I mean, I did it for. I was in shape last year, as in like had like striated glutes for about 9 months last year. I was doing a carnivore diet for the majority of it. I got into that sort of shape in about 8 weeks, and that's unheard of for bodybuilding. I mean, I wasn't coming from like a fat state. I was probably a bit, you're not fat, but I was fatter than you, sort of thing. So I've got into shape, sort of thing, really quickly. And I was like, this is weird. Like, I've not had my level of, the thing about bodybuilding or just physique development in general is that the amount of suffering you have to really get to sort of get to that sort of stage of condition and your body, and like how your fat sort of appears it's enormous. Like, you struggle, like your feet hurt, your bum hurts, sort of thing, sitting down, everything, your body just struggling to sort of move because you're not giving it a substrate to sort of work off. But I found like I had no sort of excess hunger. I didn't have like an enormous appetite. Like, I didn't feel like, oh, I could really do with another meal. Like, I was completely satiated throughout the whole process. And I was eating at the time, gone through this in another podcast, but I was eating at the time, I believe, about 500 grams of protein, which is ridiculously high.
Jesus.
But I thought, you know, why, sod it, why not? Just see what happens. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, so yeah, I'm not recommending that to anyone, so don't sort of do this. But yeah, on the time I was using gear, so maybe that sort of allowed that amount of protein to do more. I don't know, or vice versa. Who knows? But the fat content was about 150 to 200 grams, and I'm like, well, who can diet on? You know, I don't believe in the calories concept. We know that's not what it is. Like, I'm well read on that sort of thing. But like, in terms of food, labeled food calories, I was on about 3,600 a day, and that's at the lowest point. I was doing quite a lot of activity, but before I'd get into shape like 2,600, 2,800, and that was a chore. I was really churning through and like working to get to that sort of condition. So that sort of covers the composition, the body composition sort of element of it. Performance, I was expecting. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in, you know, there's an adaptation period in like doing like, you know, it's keto or carnivore, and yeah, there is. Your body does different things. You're trying to fuel your body a different way. So that's why I will say to people, like, you know, take it easy. Don't sort of rush into it. Maybe if you're eating, I don't know, 300 carbs, 200 protein a day, do 200 protein, 200 carbs. Just lower it week by week, or whatever you happen to be doing as like an athlete or a physique sort of competitor. And my strength has been very consistent. I've lost about, I'd say, between 30 and 35 pounds in the last 8 to 10 weeks. I've been eating the same amount of calories per day, labeled food calories. So yeah, I've not had to adjust that. All I've done is just protein, fat, just switch them around, see what I feel best on. So it helps with your, I think, so the diet sort of helps with your cues and understanding what your body needs. Like, I don't know if many people talk about this, but you sort of think, oh, I need a bit more fat today. I need a bit more salt, or you know, I just feel a bit dry. Like, I need more oily fish. You know, you get these sort of cues in your head, which I think is quite, it's like an innate sort of response. You're not going to get that if you're still chucking in, as we know, some people 100 grams of honey a day, I don't know, kilo of fruit, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. I think that intuitive sort of eating is, I think that is a bit indicative, you know, of what you need, if your body's saying, you know, and I think that too, like when I'm eating leaner meat, and at a certain point, it's just like, this is getting the bland. Like, I still want to eat. I'm like, that's not really tasting good. Then you get like a fatty piece, and you're like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. And so, yeah, I've noticed that as well. And you know, that's interesting. I mean, because the thing is too, is, I mean, you're going for a very specific result. You're training your body, you're working out very hard at very high level, and you're going for a specific physique as well. And so, I think most people, um, even athletes that are like high performance athletes can just eat intuitively. But I think that when you're going into the physique side of things, I think that's when you might have to tweak things. And I haven't done
Mm.
physique stuff, so I can't say that for sure. But for the people I've spoken to, like yourself and others, and Robert Sykes, that Keto Savage, like he was saying as well, like there are ways of just sort of fine tuning things and just slowly bringing them down to try to get to where you want without tanking your metabolism. Because obviously, if you drop your calories too far, you're going to slow your metabolism, then you're working against yourself. And so I think that's that's something that you may have to do as well. But it's good to see that that you're able to perform at a high level, you're able to get the physique that you want, with carnivore, because that's something that a lot of people ask me about. They say, but is this good for bodybuilders? Don't you need to have carbs to bulk up and then cut down and all these sorts of things? And intuitively, biochemically, and from my own experience, I'd say no, because you can just put on a lot of lean mass and your biochemistry works a lot better. You're not putting in a bunch of storing a lot of muscle glycogen and intramuscular fat that you just have to lose afterwards anyway. And that's sort of been my thoughts. And then, but what are your thoughts on all that? Being someone who's had to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, I come from both sides of it. I mean, I know you've got more into it the last few years. I know you obviously knew, like 1 or 2 decades back, sort of thing. You don't need the plants, and they're not going to do much for you. But it does seem like my brain's gone dead. What did you say? What was the last point? Sorry.
Oh, you were just talking about like how a lot of bodybuilders want to say that, oh, do you need carbs in order to like build physique and things like that? And I thought probably not. And then you were talking about
that's
the side of things.
That's why I script a lot of my videos, or I try to, because I go off on tangents. I'm autistic, so I'm
that's all right.
a bit. As I'm talking to you now, I'm thinking about 3 different topics, so I really have to listen to what you're saying to stay on track. So I'm conscious of that. So just like redirect me if I'm off a bit. So the carb thing, like, do you need carbs to build muscle? There's a proponent in the bodybuilding industry. His name's Milos Sarchev. He's got results for his clients from using exogenous insulin and a high carbohydrate diet, particularly in the pre and post workout window. His theory behind that is that you're shuttling more nutrients into your body, and theoretically, it makes kind of sense, but you're not considering the fact that you're getting all that glycated protein, all that's it's a lot of these sugars and things are toxins. I don't know if you know much about deuterium, but the deuterium content of some of these powders is insane, and things like honey is something like 160 parts per million of deuterium versus like, say, pork fat or tallow is like 130 or something.
I literally just had a conversation with a guy about deuterium, Gabor Salman.
Laszlo Gabos.
So no, that apparently that's his student or something like that. But yeah, they've been together for like decades. But yeah, they're both.
That's an interesting topic.
Yeah. Super interesting. That's something I didn't know much about. Yeah.
You may. I'm getting off on a tangent again. So today in the gym, I forgot my water bottle. I thought, this is shit. Like, I'm not going to be able to perform. Like, so I had a push workout. We all like to have a sort of chest and shoulder workout, work our arms a bit. Sort of get a pump. Look big in the gym, whatever. I thought, I'm going to deflate. I'm going to need all this water, and I had about maybe 2 sips of water from the fountain in the gym, and I was completely fine for the whole thing. And that's what happens when you are fat adapted. You don't necessarily, as long as you're putting the fat in and the salt, you will produce metabolic water, and your body will upregulate its the ADH sort of pathway. So that's just off topic. But yeah, my thirst is a lot less. I don't need. I used to drink, like you used to, 9-10 liters a day easily. Yeah. And now I'm drinking 2. I'm actually pretty more muscular now than then. So.
And
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say too. Yeah, no, 100%. From the metabolic water side of things, you do when you're burning fat in your mitochondria, you actually create water that's low deuterium water, sort of
Mm.
as you were alluding to, and that seems to cause like a lot of benefits for a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons, especially in cancer biology, and but also you think about it, we're not eating a bunch of fiber to rush our stools out as fast as possible while they're still wet and mushy and have a whole bunch of water in them. Our colon, the whole
Mm.
point of the major point of our colon is to draw out that water. And so when we're eating fiber, we're actually fighting against that. You're trying to get it out before all the water gets out. I'm happy for all the water to get out. We want all the water to get out because you're storing it, you're maintaining it,
Mm.
and so that's another reason why we would need less fat, less water, is because we're actually utilizing and preserving the water that we have in our body much better as well.
You've explained it much better than I can. So cheers for that. That's sort of that's helpful. Yeah. Shall I get back to the point on the carbohydrates?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So Milos Sarcev, I was going on about earlier, high carbohydrate pre and post workout. Long story short, if you have enough leucine in your diet, your anabolic, sort of insulin response, IGF-1, all those sort of things, will amplify nearly just as much. People like in the bodybuilding world like to think, if you need 100 grams carbs a day, try 200, try 300. It's always like that bit more. And it, like I said about the bare bones of human nutrition, like they're trying to sort of, they have this idea that you can super compensate your glycogen to such extreme levels, and it's a lot of it's inflammation. They're just putting more inflammatory foods in their body, and they're puffy, yeah, but they got no lines, no cuts in a lot of cases. And you think, well, I see all these mass bodies, they've got no definition. It's like, I'm not enormous, but I'm not that defined either. I think there's something going on there. So a lot of it's like you said, it's just excess water that just comes off you. So you gain all this weight, these weight gainers, carb powders, and it just comes off. And that's the reality, it seems.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. Is just sort of you're just working against yourself. You're putting on sort of excess weight, but it's not muscular. It's not actual muscle. It's just in the muscle, and you get more glycogen. It pulls in water, and that gets puffy. But you're also putting in intramuscular fat. It's like the marbling on a steak that's fed grains. That's from that. You're laying down intramuscular fat. You're just laying down fat everywhere and glycogen everywhere. You're just trying to get this stuff out of there. And and some of that gets into your fat, into your muscles, and so your muscles look like they're physically bigger, but it's not because of muscle tissue. It's not lean muscle mass, and that's something that's a concept that people are well aware of. It's like, hey, how do we put on lean muscle mass? That's the point. And so when you sort of bulk up with that, fatty muscle mass, you're going to lose a lot of that size when you're burning the rest of the fat off to try to cut down. And I just think, like, why, let's skip the middleman. Let's just put on the lean muscle mass and forget the rest. And that's I would imagine, just without everything that I know about all this, that would just be healthier anyway. You're not putting on a bunch of fat and then taking it off and putting it on and taking it off, putting on. You're just building up, like a statuesque figure and just looking like a Greek god all the time. That appeals to me just, intuitively,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for like 99% of the population, you want to look good year round. Maybe
Mm.
towards summer, you might sort of think, oh, I want to get a bit better abs sort of thing for the beach. But you
Yeah.
want to look good. Like, there's always going to be times when you take your shirt off in the swimming pool sort of thing. So you don't want to look like, too much like a blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing as well about the gaining the excess water, the weight is, like you said, the stress in your body. So your blood pressure will shoot right up. I mean, for most people, you gain, I don't know, bodybuilders after a show will gain 20 to 30 pounds within about 1 to 2 weeks. And that's very typical. That's not, it's absurd, but it is very typical. That's a very normal thing that happens. You watch their blood pressure go up, and then they're having to take all these like supplement stacks of hawthorn berry and Downside root to drop the water, and like then it's got the sort of over-the-counter stuff or the prescription-only stuff. So they're really sort of digging in with the drugs and the supplements just to stay in good health. And you think you're wasting a lot of money here for something which isn't going to do any good long term. We've seen the deaths in bodybuilding recently. I don't know how many of your followers sort of look into that sort of thing, but one of my idols was Cedric McMillan, and he died within the last 6 months or so. And he's sort of someone that I've met, and he's iconic to me. Like I respect him as a lot as a person. His values are very good, and I thought that's such a shame. Like, I valued him as a person and his outlook on life and his family and how he cared for people. So yeah, that's something which sort of led me to sort of even more so towards the carnivore diet and how it's going to affect bodybuilding, physique people.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Do we know how he died? Was there a reason or what happened?
Yeah, so he had issues with his lungs. Apparently, that's the latest I've heard. So scarring or
Hmm.
water around his lungs. But that's because he was a perfectly healthy guy until maybe a year or two before he passed, and I think he's on his way out in bodybuilding, like he is sort of retiring or getting towards that. But yeah, but I mean that's just one example. I mean, I remember going to the Body Power Expo in the UK a few years ago, and what they usually do is hang from banners at the top of the exhibition hall all the bodybuilders and fitness influencers that have died within the last few
Hmm.
years. You sort of
Yeah.
see banner after banner after banner of all these people like, oh, I used to watch his videos. I used to watch his videos. Oh, he
Hmm.
was cool. I used to follow him on Instagram. And it's like, it's quite alarming because it's really opened my eyes a lot towards the dangers of bodybuilding. Like I've heard people recently say, I, I'd quite happily die the day after the Olympia if I won it. And I'm like, that's a bit selfish.
Yeah.
Like, well, all these people about your family sort of thing, like they're the ones sort of supporting you for all this, and you're willing to just go like that and not give a damn sort of thing. I think
Yeah.
there's just I don't know if it's awareness or mentality, but the carnivore diet really does resolve or at least alleviate a lot of the problems that these bodybuilders are having. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. It's a bit short-sighted because obviously you're looking at this goal, but you're not thinking like, okay, wouldn't it be nice to enjoy having met that accomplishment? You win the Olympia and then you're dead the next day. You don't even get to enjoy that. I mean, like, hell yeah, I did this. You don't even have a chance to be happy with yourself. I think a lot of doctors do that as well. I think that a lot of people they go to medical school and it's just like they're just thinking I need to get into medical. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. And then they get into medical school. They're doing all this stuff and like medical schools, especially in the States, it's hell on earth. And it's very, very busy. And like, and so in those types of programs, you're just guns blazing the whole time, and then you're just trying to survive and get through it, and then you get through it and you're like, okay, I'm a doctor, and you're like, and now what? You're not even thinking like long term, like, no, I want to have been a neurosurgeon for 40 years and have done all these. That's what I want. So and you
mm.
do, you have to look at that, and like, it's important to think about that and not just have like this one thing. Realize there's life after this as well, and that's the important part. You make that, like all that hard work that they did to then it's just gone. Like, it's a point, like at least enjoy that.
Yeah, I've noticed that with bodybuilding now does seem to have a bit more health centered approach, but they are a bit behind on the science in some ways. For them, it's very much what can you add into to your supplement regime to sort of
Mm,
reduce a health problem, and it's kind of it seems just like it's like counterintuitive. You're trying to stack all these things together to negate what's bad in your diet or your lifestyle regime, sort of thing. People are doing all sorts of funny things to get into shape nowadays. It's quite shocking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just to sort of, just to mention as well, or just to sort of follow up on that. You think about it, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger obviously won all these bodybuilding competitions, but that he wasn't just gone after that. The man had a 30-year career as a movie star after that. That was his real
Mm.
career. He made his name, getting the Olympia, but then after that, that's what made him be, who he is. And so, hopefully people see that and recognize that that's not the end. That's not the pinnacle. Like, that can be the beginning of something. And hopefully that is for people. And they don't just do everything, just come hell or high water to just get what they want and then just have nothing afterwards, like do things that are, like you're saying, just like a new stack, a new this, a new that, just to get them where they want to go, and the consequences be damned, because there can be life afterwards. And that can be like the best part of your life as well.
That's right. Yeah. I couldn't have said it about myself. Yeah. There's more to life than these things. And I mean, they say like in bodybuilding, you always hear the sort of, I don't know, I might not be phrasing it right, but like, it's all about the journey. It's like, well, the journey is you're 25 stone in the off season. You got high blood pressure. Your heart's about to explode in your chest, and like you're sweating everywhere. You're always bloated and feel horrible. Like what kind of journey is that? Like, yeah, some people can tolerate it. It's bodybuilding is essentially, if I was to define it, the ability to tolerate as much crap on your body as possible. That's from what I've seen. So yeah.
Yeah, like that, and that's the thing too. I mean, even just the high blood pressure thing. There's a lot of causes of high blood pressure. One of them is insulin resistance, and so if you just have, especially if you're giving yourself tons and tons and tons of insulin, you will become resistant to that, because your body, like any drug, any hormone, anything, if you have higher and higher amounts of it, and your body's just like, hey, this is too much, it's going to stop. It's going to start down regulating the receptors. It's going to make it so that's less efficacious, and you need more and more and more. And that's one of the things with high blood pressure, is that your arteries become insulin resistant. Normally insulin can help, contract and release your arteries. Now it's not listening to that, because it's like insulin's talking to it, and it's just like, nope, you've been lying. You've lied before. I don't trust you anymore. And so it just doesn't listen. And, so your arteries stay small, and your blood pressure goes up. And we find that when people go off of carbohydrates, even just going keto, they generally come off their blood pressure medications within a few months. It's actually quite dramatic, and that I think would be very likely. And obviously, the different substances that they can take as well, and the different sort of gear that they use can also bump up your blood pressure as well. But also, you're in that bulking phase, you're eating a buttload of carbs, so your insulin's just high as hell, and you're gonna hurt yourself with that.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I know just myself, my own anecdote from what you just said is my blood pressure's never been high. I've been quite fortunate. I seem to be able to tolerate bodybuilding quite well. My digestion, not so much. But other than that, yeah, I can really put my body through a lot. But yeah, so I was eating at one point, I think 1,000 grams of carbs a day, quite handily. That was
wow.
That's very long. When I say that, I'm not saying I did that once, as in what I, like they do these sort of like cheat days or things. I did it quite steadily for a good few months sort of thing. Wow. And yeah, it was my blood pressure would increase quite a few points, maybe 10, 15 points. I'm very meticulous about my health. I measure a lot of things. I blood test every 3 to 4 months, and I've seen cause and effects, just different markers, inflammation, omega-3 6 ratio, just from having carnivore diets greatly improved. And I mean, I'm battling some health issues currently, but I'm still finding ways around it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
it's good. Yeah. I mean, I even noticed like when I was playing rugby, like it was always like you were saying, like you want to get abs in the summer. I was always the opposite, because I played rugby. It was like a, fall, winter, spring sport. And so I was in just sick shape that whole time. And then like soon as summer comes around, because before I was playing sevens, and then I played sort of year round, I was always in shape. But when I wasn't playing sevens and like I just wasn't doing anything, like I got out of shape real quick, and it was like the exact opposite. I'm like, this is bullshit, like this is like like when I'm the most lean, the most ripped, the most jacked is when no one's taking their shirt off, because it's Seattle and it's freezing, or it's England and it's even more freezing, and like you just never get the benefits of that, of actually like having that physique when it matters. And then like you were saying, you can put on like 20-30 pounds in a few weeks. Like I've done that, like during the rugby season, when we would take a few weeks off or a month off for Christmas, I would just keep eating sort of the same stuff, a lot of meat, but I would have other stuff as well. And I routinely stack on like 30 pounds. And I always sort of thought of it at the time, because I was because I've been just working so hard, I just wasn't eating enough, and I was sort of slimming down, which is true. I would actually lose way too much weight during the season quite often if I wasn't very careful about eating enough. And so I'd get slim, and then I'd be eating enough, and I'd be able to just back on and just swell up. But a lot of that was obviously unhealthy, and then I'd slowly sort of lose it, the rest of the year. But I think like for me, I might have like needed that, like just sort of bulk up, and then I just slowly like lose it, and I just sort of had something to work off for the next few months.
Yeah.
I just a lot of times, especially early in my career, I just wasn't eating enough. It was just very hard for me to maintain weight, and I sort of had to figure out how to do that, and just because I was I was in school, I was working out, I was doing all these things so often. I just didn't have a lot of time to eat. And so, I neglected that. And then carnivore, when I first did that, I really didn't eat enough because I was just never hungry either. And I didn't have time to sort of eat. And so I'd only sort of eat in the evenings. And then sometimes I wouldn't really be hungry and it'd be late. So I'd be like, oh, I'll just drink some water and go to bed. And then it'd be like a few days. Sometimes I wouldn't eat, and I'd be like thinking like, okay, I really should eat because it's been like a couple of days. But yeah, so and then sort of off season, just like stack back up as well. But yeah, especially when I was eating carbs and things like that. I think that the biggest I ever got was when I was eating carbs, just a normal standard diet. No sweets or junk or anything like that. Just normal food. And I think I got like 275 or something like that. And I was like, I was pretty muscular, but I definitely had, extra fat as well. And then I'd sort of trim down to like 245. That was usually my steady sort of solid playing weight.
Yeah, you made quite really good points there. So like me, I think you're a bit taller. I'm 6'1". You're about 6'3".
Yeah, just about. Yeah, just under 6'3". Yeah.
So people like us, like we can tolerate and eat a lot of food. Like we have a high requirement of food. So when people watch this video, bear that in mind. So don't look at our meals on Instagram or whatever we're doing, or we talk about food and think, oh, we need to be doing that. We are larger people. I come from a background in rugby and American football. Funny enough.
Nice.
So I used to play for the uni team for American football, and rugby I played for the school team. Mm-hmm. Went on an international sports tour in like 2010 or something, and I had to basically quit doing that because I injured my spine basically. I've got a very bad spine now basically, so I'm awaiting surgery on that. But
sorry to hear that. I'm
going to be looking. Yes, it's fine. It's you got to have a positive outlook. I think you can't dwell on it. But I'm going to be sort of applying the carnivore diet and a lot of the principles around that, and really look into it about how the best way to recover from that is. So everything's going to be very specific. I'm not going to take it to chance because I see a lot of people have the surgery and there's not got much relief. And I'm like, I don't want to be one of those people. I want to be someone that puts the work in and gets the recovery that they need so I can appreciate and gain the benefit of having the surgery. So there's that. But like you said about the quantities of food, I mean, I'm 6'1". The heaviest I've got to about 275 as well, actually. I was quite lean to be fair, with about 12-15% body fat, like faint abs sort of thing. Yeah. I'm a bodybuilder, so my
pretty beefed up.
Things different. Like I train different. So it's a bit of I'm probably not that strong, but So I've been all sorts of weights. I'm now currently about 200 and I think about 240, I think, or 235, about 8-10% body fat. I feel better now. Like my digestion's smoother. Like I can eat a meal now. I'm not sort of walking around like my stomach's not cramping. And I eat a meal and I feel like I've eaten something. But there's no sort of like over here in the UK we have a Christmas dinner. That's very carb, fat, and meat heavy. There's a lot in there, sort of thing. And I would quite usually have 3 or 4 plates. I mean, like each plate for about 600 to 800 grams. So it's pretty big, and that would just be one meal out of the day. Then I'd have 2 or 3 plates of desserts, like cakes and whatever, like where we had, sort of thing. But now I couldn't stomach that. Like my gut's sort of, your gut can expand and contract, sort of thing. I mean, the human guts can tolerate about 400 milliliters or something, like just a normal person just sat there still. And it stretches up to about, I think, 5 or 6 times that. So you think what kind of pressure are you putting through your body to eat that much food? And when you're eating meat and fat, you're not putting loads of like deuterium-ridden, like deuterium-rich sort of plant foods and carbohydrates. I'm not needing to eat 600-800 gram meals anymore. Like most of my meals are somewhere between. I really try and condense it down to much nutrients as I can in a small meal, but it's 150 to 250 grams in a meal. I do 5 meals a day because that seems to be what I need. I'm different to a lot of people. So people like yourself, John Baker. I mean, a lot of you guys do 1 to 3 meals, and that seems to be about the norm. So, that's just me. But a lot of people were doing 2 to 3 meals a day, and you start looking at a plate and think, I'm just eating a steak with a bit of butter on it. I'm eating, 6 eggs and a bit of cheese. And if you're having a third meal, it might be, salmon and some, I don't know, people like liver. I'm not much of a fan, but it's the amount of food you have to eat, and it just simplifies everything as well. Like when I go to a supermarket now, I'm going probably down 2 aisles, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I'm literally looking at the meat section. So I buy a lot of minced or ground beef. I do lamb sometimes. I don't eat as much chicken nowadays, but at the start I did. And I'll just have that salt, pepper. I use white pepper. It's lower in oxalate than black pepper. I'm going down the egg aisle, getting the free range or organic egg sort of thing. And that's not much of an issue over here. I think in the States and some other countries, it's quite hard to get a good quality egg. But over here, we seem to be all right. We've got good welfare standards, and I feel better about eating those sort of things. So there's that, and maybe a bit of fish. Yeah, and it just simplifies everything. I'm like, it's not just the time you're sort of spending, like cooking all the foods, like rinsing all the rice and cooking the rice, boiling it. It just simplifies everything. You're using a pan or an air fryer oven sort of thing to cook your food. All right, 10 minutes, whatever, done. You're going down a couple of aisles of shops to get your food. You're probably spending less because you're not buying as much random stuff. Like a lot of these things are like stupid amounts of money for the amount of nutrition you get out of it, the amount of energy. You're paying a lot of money for sugar, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And have you? I don't know. It seems to be something that people do. I certainly do it. Like you're going through like Costco, and you're just seeing. My cart's full of meat. Like that's it. It kind of it's shocking even to me. I love it. I look at it like that looks so awesome. But other people just me like, geez, this guy looks like a serial killer, and but like their carts, you look at them and you sort of look at the stuff in there, and it'll just be stacked in with just carbs and sugar, and then maybe like a pack of fruit. And like a head of lettuce, and they think like, oh, this will be good. That would be my vitamins, eating healthy. And
there's so many topics we could cover it. I mean, it's crazy. Like I do the same. Like literally, someone's in front of me in the queue. I see the thing. Maybe it makes me a bit of like a carnivore snob sort of thing. But you see they've got they're very bare basic, like 10p per egg, like 12 cents per egg sort of things. And that'd be like it, but they won't have many. And you think that's to feed a family of like 4 people. There's 4 people there in a kilo. How long is that going to last them? And they'll buy loads of almonds and nuts and things. They add like a bag of sugar, quite often flour.
Yeah.
You're looking at just ready meal after ready meal after ready meal, like frozen pizzas. You think there's not really any actual food here. And it's funny how when I go somewhere now and I look at food and what people are eating, I don't register it as food. I don't look at it and think, like I used to think, that's got 50 grams of carbs, that's 10 grams of fat, And now I'm just thinking, all right, that's about a kilo of meat, that's about 12, it's 12 eggs, there might be some milk or something. I eat a lot of butter, so that's like half kilo butter, whatever. And I think it just simplifies everything. And I'm looking at food as I've lost this kind of like binge eating sort of like idea in my head where I think I need lots of food, and it's like I just need a lot of good food.
Yeah. So do I. I don't look at those things as food either. And I think like technically, not to be mean about it, but but food is species specific, and I don't actually think that stuff's food to us. Candy bar is not food to a gorilla. It's not food to anything really, because it's like, those aren't really things that most animals would eat in that combination in nature. And so it's really not food. You can get nutrients from it, but I don't think that is a good definition of food. I mean, you can get vital, minerals and nutrients as well as calories, which you need from eating dirt and a can of Coke. But I don't think we're dirtivores. And like drinking a can of Coke and taking a multivitamin, I don't think anybody in the right mind would count that as food,
Mm,
but they're calories. You have to have calories. You will die without them, right?
mm.
And you need iron, you need copper, you need zinc, you need magnesium. All these things come from dirt. Why isn't that food?
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
yeah,
Mm,
or maybe we're just awesome and we can get a lot of nutrients out of things that are, not really, supposed to be getting it from us. We have these crazy, just, chemical mills in our body that are able to extract nutrients out of things.
mm.
But that doesn't mean that that's what we're supposed to be eating or what we're, most optimal when we're eating. And I look at those things and I just feel bad because a lot of those things, they're all low fat and they all say low fat, low fat, low fat,
Mm.
but it's all like sugar cereal and junk. And then they have some fruit, well, because fruit's good. You need fruit. And then vegetables. Well, you have to have vegetables. You have to have a salad. That's really good for you. And really, that's the main meal is the salad. And, so these people actually are trying, it's not just like they're just, some slob who's just, I don't care. Usually it's the meat people that like
Mm.
get that moniker where they just be like, oh, you shouldn't eat red meat. Oh, whatever, I like it. I'm going to die anyway. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Those are the guys eating the steaks. It's usually the other people that are trying to do the right thing. They're not eating the steaks and they're eating all the other things. And it's just a really real shame that they've just been fooled.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've just talking about the broad epidemiology of it all. Like we've seen, processed foods gone up this much, meat's gone down about this much, but then like the seed oils, we can, that's a whole other topic. But like, how much of these ultra processed foods we're eating is insane. Like we don't quantify. Like you think, oh, what food are you eating today? Well, I had a packet of crisps and I had a chocolate bar or whatever it is, someone eats. You think, all right, what whole food did you eat? What actual nutrients did you put for your body? And I think it's processed food intake for a lot of people is like 60-70%, the Western world at least. Don't know if it's the same sort of thing everywhere else, but yeah, I mean, I'm seeing it all the time. Like the other thing is like we have different levels to the carnivore diet. Would you agree maybe? Like, so you've got like the strict line diet, so ruminant meats, it's lamb, beef, mutton, elk, deer, whatever, salt, water, Then you got sort of the more strict, so just the plain strict carnivore, which might be that, but with organ meat, you might eat chicken maybe, or I don't know, salmon. Then you got like lazy carnivore or less strict carnivore. I guess I'm somewhere around like lazy, relaxed sort of carnivore. But yeah, I let myself have like artificial sweeteners.
Carnivore. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dirty
Naughty carnivore.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, like the sugar-free stuff I sometimes do, but it's not like I'm putting fiber seems the emittance of fiber seems to be the big driver of my digestive health. Getting that out and the sugar. Then you just have different spectrums. You have like you have the sort of keto, then you have like whole food, and you have whole food plant-based, then you got veggie, then you got vegan on the other end. So you got this spectrum of different foods that people can eat, and the sound of American diet, I wouldn't even call it a diet. It's just it's a fad. It's something we've been doing for the last 50, 60 years. It's not something which is like a diet really. It's not a default food, like you said, like it's not a species specific diet. So I mean, a lot of people fit in the middle of that, and they'll eat maybe keto, carnivore sort of thing, and they'll get health improvement. Some people have to go further along. And I think that's something I've seen a lot. At least we're in the same sort of Facebook groups. I've seen people with all these health problems. They have to get more specific with like the macro intake or the ratios, whether they're having ghee or butter. Like there's so much nuance to this, and I think that's important. Like carnivore isn't just you eat meat and this. There's different variations to it. And my idea, and I think your idea might be similar, is that if you can get people away from like the vegan plant-based stuff and more towards real food, like the meat, fat, things like that, it's gonna benefit the health outcomes of like everyone, So
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, I think, you know, just moving in that direction is really good. You know, just getting rid of the plants and getting rid of the sugar, especially, and all the processed crap, alcohol, cigarettes, all these stupid plants, and getting more meat. I think, you know, is very, very beneficial to people. And, you know, if people are, you know, I mean, I think that's the thing. It's just like, you know, you're going for a very specific aim. And so you're very careful about what you're eating, and you're eating it in a certain way. And you found that that works for you, which is awesome, you know. And I've done the
Mm.
same thing. You know, I find that, you know, if I'm just eating a lot of fatty beef, I feel great, you know, and I'll put some butter on it, and I sort of go by how I feel, just like you say, you know, I just feel like, I kind of want some more butter now. I want some more of this. Or maybe, you know, I'm just getting a little bit stopped up in my, you know, I'm getting a bit constipated or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, I need to up the fat a bit, obviously. That's just how I adjust things. And I noticed that I eat a really big meal at the end of the night. I usually that coasts me, as long as there's enough fat, that'll coast me,
Mm.
you know, for another 24 hours, unless I'm working out a lot, in case I need to do that twice. Because I literally, my appetite will double, you know, when I'm lifting a lot of weights. You're lifting a lot more than me. You're doing this, you know, as a profession. So you need to eat more than that. That makes perfect sense. And,
Mm.
you know, you may not be able to get all the nutrients, protein, and fat that you need in just two big ass meals. You know, you obviously, or you need to do that in what you're saying, 5 meals. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I think that's the key, that, you know, you can get these principles, and then people just do, you know, what works for them and their lifestyle, and see how they feel. I mean, I think that anyone and everyone is going to feel optimal on a high fat carnivore diet. I truly believe that. Now,
Mm.
that may not be good enough for people to give up carbs and alcohol. And it isn't for everybody. I have good friends of mine that went carnivore, did it for like 9 months, felt awesome, and went like, yeah, actually, I like drinking and eating bread. And so they stopped, you know, but they do
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, actually, I did feel amazing. Like, oh, and there's just sort of toy with it back and forth. For me feeling this way, and getting the performance that I get, both, you know, at work and at the gym, is just, you know, that's well worth it to me to give up bread. I like bread, you know, I don't like it that
Mm.
much, you know. And so, you know, it's you know, that's easy for me. But, you know, other people need to make that balance, you know. And you know, I just think it's, you know, and I would imagine that you're the same way. You just want people to know this stuff, because, you know, we've been told so much, you know, just untrue information, just false facts and misinformation. And, you know, in the bodybuilding, you got to eat carbs, got to eat carbs, got to eat carbs. And you notice yourself being like, yeah, I actually feel better when I don't. And I get more muscular and lean when
Mm.
I don't. And so that doesn't really make sense. And you know, and then, you know, other people, you see them and they're just eating all these carbs and sugar and plants, but they're low fat, so they're eating healthy. And so many people say, "Well, I'm eating pretty good. I eat pretty healthy." As in patients at the
Mm.
hospital who have no idea what's about to come at and hit them, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, because they're talking about different things. And you know, like some people talk about, it's like, well, you know, doctors just focus very myopically on this one little thing and be like, okay, well, here's your blood pressure, here's a pill, go sort out your life. And they don't ask you about what you're eating, if you're sleeping, how much water you're getting, if you're getting exercise, all these sorts of things. Looking at you know, taking the holistic approach, you know, to medicine. I think that's a fair criticism, you know. And so, even though it does take a lot of time to do that, I try to take that time. So I asked me, I was like, okay, so you're feeling like this, and these things are going there, and you're having a lot of pain. What are you eating? How are you sleeping? What's going on? Like, oh, I know I eat pretty good. I eat pretty healthy. I'm like, okay, what does that mean to you? It always means something different. It generally means low fat, high vegetables, and a lot of sugar with fruit and whatever. And that's generally what comes out. And then, you know, we have the talk, and
Mm.
then, you know, and I give them resources to think about, and to look into as well. But that's the thing. Everyone thinks that they're doing the right thing. Everyone thinks that
Yeah.
they're eating right, and it's like, well, I eat pretty good, I eat pretty well, I'm pretty careful about that. But they're having all these horrible problems, and you find out that, yeah, they're eating pretty terribly from our standpoint.
Yeah. It's. I think just the population's misinformed.
Mm.
What I was going to make earlier, but then I obviously rambled again. Was that people's perception of what they're eating is very warped.
Mm.
The guidelines will say, you know, I don't know what it is around the world. Here it's eat 5 fruit and veg a day.
Mm.
Eat 2,500 calories if you're male, 2,000 if you're female. Have I think it's something like 70 grams of protein or 55 grams of protein. I think it's 55 over in this country. I'm thinking, well, I'm eating 5 times that. Like, surely I don't have a 5 times higher requirement of protein. Like, come on. Like, then you see all this like frailty and like the elderly that they're eating like the loads of like boiled vegetables and this, that, and the other, and soups and this. They're just giving the body sugar, but they're not giving themselves the substrates to sort of repair their body. And that's something which, I mean, when I was working in the health food store, people would say, I'd say like, oh, what are you eating? So I was trying to get a gist of like the right recommendations. I really care about people's health outcomes. I want people to get the most benefit for their money. I don't like people wasting money. I'm quite stingy in that way myself. So like they'd say, oh, I tried to eat healthier. I tried not to eat much red meat. I have fish every now and then. Well, how often? I had it, I think, the other week.
Yeah.
All right. Some people are advocate. I'm quite an advocate for myself. My own genetic makeup, for some reason, requires me to need more omega-3 than most people. That's my own little thing. But I mean, how long ago was that? What was it? I had, well, actually, now I think about it, it was fish and chips. You know what fish and chips is in the UK? That's basically thick, chunky French fries dipped in oil with a battered cod fillet, so a white fish. So no omega-3 near enough, just no fat in it, just loads of omega-6, and they think that's good, and they'll do the same thing with like all the products they look in the supermarkets, low fat. There's none of this in there, and they're looking at the wrong ideas for the solution. And you look at the population, the graphs which show diabetes, obesity, dementia, cardiovascular disease, everything's going up. What do we see about like the diet, even like the diet surveys for what they're worth? Like we'll see they're following what the recommendations are. They're eating less meat. They're eating more low fat foods. And what's that doing for them? But they're not cognizant of that. And that's what's important to get this sort of message across. So I hope this sort of video will apply to a lot of people, and just to think again about what you're doing and understand that maybe you might be someone that's watching this and thinking, oh, I'm sort of following quite a healthy diet. I'll try and eat more meat. And the reality is you don't know how bad you feel until you actually omit the things that you're not meant to be eating. Not until you sort of reducing those things and increasing the fatty meat and the good quality sort of animal foods, then you'll sort of actually really get the mental benefits. Like you'll feel better, your digestion will be better. Someone called Brett Lloyd, who I'm friends with, he's in the States. You might have spoken to him. He's a cool guy. He's
nice.
He's put like his depression into like remission, and you see him. He's got so much joy to him, like so much energy. And I'm like, I want to feel like that guy. Like you can tell this guy's sincere. Like he's actually got something good that he's managed to succeed with. So I think there's a lot to be said for it. And even if it's just someone that already is, I've got no autoimmune conditions, I'm fine. Just try it. You might feel better. What's the worst that can happen, sort of thing.
Yeah, no idea. I had some friends that say that as well. You're like, well, I'm sure that looks good and like it makes sense and you're doing great, but I feel good. I don't have any problem I need to reverse. And it's just like, I don't either. But like, I don't think you realize just how bad you actually feel. Like until you get out of it. And like when I stopped eating, just the plants. I was doing this consciously, like not like the first time when I didn't actually realize just how amazing I was feeling and how different that was and why. This time I was just like, Jesus, I was like, I'm feel amazing now. And, I could have been feeling like this my whole life. And I felt robbed, I felt robbed out of feeling amazing all the time. And even though I thought I felt pretty good, and I was performing, I was getting, my, what I needed to accomplish accomplished, but I had no idea that I actually was fairly miserable, the whole time. So Jonathan, can you tell me, are you training for any competitions at the moment or just for your own enjoyment?
It's my own enjoyment, really. I'm moving more towards like the coaching aspect of bodybuilding, and not just bodybuilding, like health, fitness in general. I mean, I've worked with people in all sorts of areas, elderly people, young people, physique people that just want to feel a bit better. So that's basically my goal at the moment. I'm looking at maybe doing like a men's physique competition in the next few years. My legs aren't going to be able to be, I'm not going to be able to train my legs hard enough to compete in bodybuilding with the way my spine is.
Okay.
I'm having a fusion surgery. So there's that. So I'm thinking more towards the lines just mainly health, just feeling good. And I basically, the reason why I wanted to lose weight recently was to just sort of see, well, how easily can I do it with the least amount of suffering. So if I was to be someone else, I wanted to put myself in their shoes. Like, how can I do it without feeling really hungry or low energy or losing sleep? So I was really conscious of that, and I've come to my own sort of conclusions about that for myself, and hopefully I'll be able to apply that to other people as well. So that's what I'm looking to do.
Awesome. And are you doing online coaching, in-person coaching? Like what are you doing now?
So I do online coaching. I'm very accessible for Instagram. I have a new YouTube channel. I'm having some issues we discussed earlier with my Google Drive, my video quality. I've only just recently got a microphone sort of thing, so I'm trying to sort it out so I put out good content, but there's that as well. I've got a website as well, which I can link like below or something.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'm very affordable. Like this is a passion project for me. Like you've sort of said, like you want your best, you want the best health outcomes for the people that you're working with. I'm sick of seeing unwell people. Like I'm really, and it's commonplace. It's everywhere. So it just disheartens you, and that's why my fees are affordable. I do a half-hour consultation for £12. That's
that's very good.
Yeah, so that's I think $15, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do an hour; it's about 20. So my prices are it's like that across the board for everything. I'm affordable, and I want to be able to help people. I'm just charging people for my time near enough. I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I've got a nutrition degree and I've got all this experience on my bodybuilder sort of thing, compete at a relatively high level. I'm not trying to sort of cash in on that. I just want to help people. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really cool, man. I totally agree with you. It is very sad to see people unwell. It's one of those things that like people have just been able to blame it on themselves, on the people themselves for being out of shape. Like, oh, well, they just don't get off their ass. They're not going to the gym. They're not working hard. They're just lazy. And it's, and maybe you can dismiss their suffering that way, more easily. But when that it actually really isn't their fault, most people, I mean, some people, drugs, alcohol, things like that. Everyone knows that that's horrible for you. And they do that anyway. And then you're just like, wow, there's no helping some people. But, other people, like we said, they think like, yeah, I'm eating pretty good. I'm eating pretty healthy, like, low fat, get a lot of vegetables, not eating red meat. And you're like, oh, it's the opposite. And, and then they're unwell and they're sick and they're hurt and they're unhappy and they're overweight and they, have horrible self-esteem issues on top of all of that, on top of all these problems, these physical and mental issues. And that's, I think is really tragic because it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to be there. They don't have to be in the gym, 8 hours a day, like you or I would be when we were training, at our peak. You don't need to do that to be really healthy and in actually pretty damn good shape. This is like, I don't work out that much. Like people are shocked by that, but I just don't have time. I've been doing more on the X3 bar sort of thing, because at least that's like something I can do at home and I can just sort of bang out in 10 minutes instead of like the sort of 2-3 hour,
same with Sean, isn't it? He trains most days, but he's doing like 15-20 minute sessions sort of thing.
Yeah, just getting something done, just moving his body, and then other days he'll do like a bigger session, and he's got a pretty good setup at his house. He's got a good gym set up in his garage. Yeah. And I used to have that when I was in Seattle. And so when I was doing that, like just at the end of the day, like whatever I was doing, I finished up at the end of the day, be like, 8, 9 o'clock, I would work out until 11. That was my cutoff, was 11 PM. And so whatever time I got home, if I got home at 7, I was working out for 4 hours. I was just lifting for 4 hours, and I liked that. I really enjoyed that. And that's when I would listen to like books on tape and like, Thomas Sowell and lectures and debates and things like that. And that's how I know half the stuff I know is by listening to it while lifting weights, And,
we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So
yeah, exactly.
I look at things. I always have a lot more to learn. I think in the grand scheme of things, when I finished my degree, I thought I knew a bit. I wasn't cocky, but I thought I knew a bit. Now I'm looking at the whole thing and thinking, God, I had a lot to learn back then. And even now I'm looking at some of the topics we covered today, sort of thing. Other people I've spoken to, there's so much more to know. We know such a small fraction of what we need to. So there's always room for growth, not just in your body and your diet, but your mindset as well, and psychology.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very, very wise thing to say, and a very important realization for people to make is that, it's Thomas Sowell said, he's an economist and philosopher that I really like. He said that it takes a lot of knowledge to understand just how ignorant we are. So you have to know a lot to realize how little you know. Because there's just so much out there. There's so much information out there that you will never be able to get a handle on. And you have to be aware of that. And once you get a ton of it and you obviously you like sort of crest the hill. And like you're saying, I mean, when I was in medical school, I remember I remember the day it happened, where I was going, I was the same thing, just cocky and confident and just being like, oh, I'm learning so much. This is so great. And I was so happy about it because I was realizing a lifelong dream of becoming, a doctor and being in medical school. And so I was learning all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is great. And then all of a sudden it just got to the point, and I remember the day it just dawned on me. Like I sort of felt it like cresting this mountain of knowledge, and got up to the top and was able to look out at this entire mountain range that I hadn't even known about. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I don't actually know anything. I just need to keep my head down and just do some serious study, because there's a lot that I don't know. And there still is. I mean, I'm never going to be able to get, and like, there's no person in history who has ever had, even 1% of the totality of human knowledge. It's not possible. There are too many things out there. And so you just have to be a bit humble about that and just do the best you can. And I think that's a good outlook. When you do that, and you have that bit of humility that you could very well be wrong, that you are going to be, you're probably going to be wrong less often because you're at least wary of that. And you're looking around, someone comes in like, okay, that makes sense. Let's talk about it. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's going to adjust that. And at least you're going to be flexible and mobile in your views on things. If you're just rigid, like, nope, I know everything. I'm super smart. I built Microsoft. And so no one else can, tell me anything. You're going to lose. I'm just sorry. You're just going to lose. You're going to run into things that you just don't know what you're talking about. And you're going to think you do, and you're going to be wrong. And it's going to be a disaster. And, so I think that's a very good outlook. Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you sort of went through it before, but can you tell us just how to reach you, how to get a hold of you, how to track you down for a consultation?
Sure. So if it's a quick question, Instagram's probably the easiest way. So that's composition_consultant. A website for coaching inquiries, consultations, things like that. That's compositionconsultant.com, all one word. And what was the other one? Let me think. YouTube. YouTube is composition space consultant.
Cool.
So I'm the same and all,
Awesome. Yeah, it was good to keep that brand out there. Yeah. Great. All right, man. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and I hope to do it again soon.
Thank you, Doctor. Cheers.
No worries.